Hi, everybody. How is everybody doing today? Welcome to Blessed to Crochet and, of course, the Lifeboat as well. I really felt that this was important as we talked about the last time we met. We talked about forgiving, the power of forgiveness. And I thought that it really flowed into kind of forgiving ourselves, was kind of the next one as we do Mental Health Month. I figured we have to talk about this. This is I think, a hard subject. Welcome, Becca Jean. Welcome, Kristen Melinda. Welcome, everybody coming in. I figured this was really important because I think sometimes this is harder than forgiving others. We sit there going, I cannot necessarily forgive myself, but you can. And I would really encourage you to do that and to go through kind of using those same reach steps we use for forgiving, the power of forgiveness, but to use it to forgive yourself. Hi, Don Gloves. So I'm going to wait for a couple people to come in. Now, one thing I chose to do for this, hi, Diary of a Ghost. Glad you're listening in the background and you popped your head out. Popped your head up. I decided to kind of do something a little different with this one because I really felt like I wanted to do a little bit of the power of all these ripples happening on the lifeboat. You know, we can look at forgiveness in so many different aspects. So last night when we were on the boat and the admiral was on, I asked him specifically what would be his advice for giving to his crew about forgiving yourself. And I figured out I'm not somebody who has dealt with drugs or alcohol. My addiction's food, but I wanted to do his perspective. So I was able to make a video clip, and I hope he doesn't mind. This is certainly, to me, something that I thought would be neat. And for those that missed it, his advice to you all about forgiveness now and forgiving yourself. And so we're going to start off with the Admiral first. Then I'm going to go ahead and speak. And then I also asked this morning, Captain Calhoun, I said, what was your advice for forgiveness and forgiving yourself? And he gave us a little tidbit, not very long. And then we're going to go to kind of my 2 cents at the end. I figured that this would be a real good example of what the ripples are doing. They're giving you different perspectives on different circumstances and situations and different topics. And it's something that you may be able to pick a nugget out of here and a nugget out of this person. Oh, well, Tommy's talked about this topic before, but I heard it differently this way this time. So let's put Admiral Tommy on the stage for just a moment and let him tell you what his perspective of forgiveness would be. So I'm going to let him roll. I'm going to kind of figure out how to do this. You all will give.
Blessed Crochet says, Admiral, I will be talking to the crew tomorrow about forgiving yourself. What would be your words of wisdom to give a crew about forgiving themselves? The beautiful thing for us about forgiveness, right, is that the things that we do when we're using dope, right, or we're using alcohol or whatever it is that is our poison, so to speak, right? The For me, anyway, forgiveness, self-forgiveness gets real easy because, who robs a bank? Who robs more than one bank, right? Who does it as a way to make a living? Nobody in their right mind. You with me? Nobody in their right mind robs banks. Nobody in their right mind drinks a fifth of booze in a night. No one in their right mind does that. If nobody in their right mind does that, then how do you judge someone that's not in their right mind? Honest to God, how do you judge someone? You wouldn't judge me. You wouldn't. You would not judge me. If you knew I was mentally ill, the things that I did while I was mentally ill, you'd probably give me a pass on. Most people do. We give people a pass. In fact, even in court, you can be found not guilty, right, by reason of of mental illness. We take it really freaking seriously, don't we? But when it comes time to forgive yourself, the checks I wrote, heroin was signing those checks. For real. I wasn't at the wheel. The decisions that were getting made in my life were getting made by an opiate. I came to a great place in my life where I realized that I'm not such an asshole. I really am not. Not such a bad dude. But that heroin, man, when I'm on it, the things that I do, I'll steal your wallet and I'll help you look for it. It's just disgusting. But on the bright side, I absolutely know, and I've proven it now for 9 years, that when you remove this crap from my life, I'm a pretty good dude, right? No joke. I'm not a bad dude when dope's not in my life. So I've come to realize that, man, it really is. For a lot of people, it's just the substance. So how am I going to judge somebody, right? Well, if I'm not gonna, I can't judge myself. Yeah, checks out. Trust me.
I love that. And I love being able to do that. I hope you didn't mind, but I just thought this is part of the benefit of the ripples is all of these different perspectives of forgiveness and different ways of saying it that I probably wouldn't have said it that way. But I asked the question, and then of course I asked it for Spanx this morning, and we will hear his take on it. So let me tell you this from my perspective a little bit, and it kind of gleamed off of what Tommy said. It is so true about forgiveness. You know, raising a child with special needs, boy, I can look back and go, I could have done this better, and I should have done this better, and I should have done this, and I should have gotten more doctors, and I should have taken her here and there and every place. And I could sit there beating myself up for things that I didn't do, or things that I did, or things that I said, or in the moment of stress, I should have done this better. But you know what? Beating yourself up because you're sitting there going, I should have done this better. I needed to do this better. I have to forgive myself, and I've had to forgive myself. There was things that I did. I of course had my daughter out of wedlock, and I'm not criticizing anybody that, either way. I'm not criticizing it in the least, but coming from the background I came from, it's not something I really wanted to do, but it happened. And I, in my 20s, acted not the greatest to my parents. I had to forgive myself for that. I didn't want to end up getting a divorce. It was something I wanted to do, but for the safety of myself and my child, I had to do it. Turn around and forgive myself for that. Now, out of that, all those ashes and all of those things came a blessing, because that was my precious daughter, who I would not take back for the world. And she has turned into be my only child. And of course, I married my best friend in 2007. And he has been diagnosed with something that made most likely unable for him to have any other children. But he officially adopted our daughter this year. And what a blessing that he was able to now, through all this, be able to have a daughter in all the way officially this year. He has certainly accepted her 100% as his own. But I really had to sit there and say, it's really hard to sit there and forgive yourself, looking back at those things that I want to beat myself up for. When my daughter was getting married, and she was engaged, and my dad passed away in 2021. There was things I said that I really did that, out of just being in grief and not really knowing how to deal with all of this, that I said and did. And I had to go back and apologize. Hi, Rick. And apologize for things that I said and did. But then I had to turn to myself and apologize to myself, and say, I can forgive myself for this. Now, hi, Janet, whether you come in from a perspective of religious belief or not, I know I need to go to my Heavenly Father to ask for forgiveness. And I have done that, and He has forgiven me. Whatever you choose to do, whoever you choose to go with, or light candles, or whatever you need to do in order to be able to forgive yourself. But I remember when I was a kid, and I was in school, and I remember my second grade teacher talking about this, about taking those things that we ask other people to maybe forgive, or looking at ourselves and saying we need to ask for forgiveness for it. We need to take those things once we have accepted forgiveness for ourselves, or accepted it from other people. We need to take those things and throw them in the biggest ocean you can find, and say, there is no more fishing allowed. So you all know I'm visual person, visual learning. So I came up with this: no fishing. Give yourself the gift of saying, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to throw it here. It is going away. I have dealt with it as many times as I need to, and it is going right there. And you're going to need a submarine to go down to pick it up again. Do not allow yourself to keep going to that island and keep bringing it back up again and keep fishing it over and over and over again. Take it when you are officially done with it and throw it in there. And every time you think, oh, I want to go back and dredge this back up again. Thank you, Janet G. When I want to dredge this back up again, what are we going to do? We're going to remember how expensive it's going to cost to get something to go all the way down there and dredge it back up again. So give yourself the permission to, when you finally journaled about it, talked about it with somebody, talked to a professional about it, truly gotten to a place where you have forgiven yourself, that you're going to allow yourself to put it in that ocean of forgiveness and, hi, Don, and literally say, it's done. I'm not dredging this back up again. And I have remembered that for years. I remembered this for years since I was in second grade. So if you want to take a screenshot of that picture and print it out and put it up and say, that's my present to myself. I'm going to take whatever I'm asking for forgiveness of myself or somebody else. And when I've totally done it, it's getting thrown there, and I'm not going, awesome, Don, I'm not going up to dredge it back up again. So give yourself the permission to throw it and be done with it. So we can go through a couple of tools, little helpful tools. And in the description below, I do have this where I got it from in there. Being able to forgive yourself requires some things: empathy, compassion, and kindness and understanding. It always requires you to it always requires you to accept that forgiveness is a choice. We don't often think of these things for ourselves, do we? It is always requires you to accept that forgiveness is a choice. Oh boy, we don't think that we have the right to give our own self, empathy, compassion, and kindness and understanding. And yes, you do. Making peace and moving forward is often otherwise easier said than done. So the first tip is focus. Hi, Tommy. If you saw the very beginning, I clipped you a little thing that gave a little segue to your advice last night on forgiveness. But the first thing is focusing on emotions. One of the first steps is learning how to forgive yourself on your emotions. So before you go forward, you need to acknowledge and process your emotions. So give yourself permission to recognize how you're feeling. And this is where we've kind of talked about, and I've talked about it before. Now, you all know I'm an Elvis fan, right? So I have done a little bit of a clip here. And this is what it happens to be: a pink Cadillac. Pick whatever car you want with a trunk, and give yourself permission to take your emotion if it gets too overwhelming and too much, and take it and throw it in that trunk and lock up the key. Only go back to it when you're ready to deal with it, either with a professional, or you're ready to deal with it with a friend, or you're ready to deal with it in your journal. If you're not, give yourself the permission to say, this emotion is going in the trunk, I'm locking up the key, and I'm going to come back. Now, you can have a whole fleet of cars if you want to. You may have to do one car at a time. And then when you get done, you can sell that car off and get a new one. But give yourself permission to take those emotions and absolutely put them in the trunk and lock them up. When you get too anxious, too anxiety goes up, whatever it is, when you've processed it enough, put it in the trunk and put it away until you're in front of somebody safe that you can unload it. But give yourself permission to put it in that trunk. All right. Acknowledge the mistake out loud. Yes, It is okay to talk to yourself. I'm giving you permission to talk to yourself. I do it all day long. It is how I hear myself. It's how I process. My husband will come in and he'll say, "You having a conversation with yourself?" And I say, "Yep, I'm having another conversation." "You having a meeting with yourself?" "Yep, I'm having a meeting." So acknowledge whatever it is out loud. It sounds better, doesn't it? When we sit there and say, "Yeah, all those things that I had to and go back and sit there and go back and sit there and go, yeah, I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this. Yes, I did. And I had to go back and I had to sit there and go, okay, this is what works. This is what does it and so forth. So acknowledging the mistakes out loud, acknowledging them written wise if you can't do them out loud, writing them down and acknowledging them. So you want to make sure that you acknowledge whatever mistakes that you have made in, out loud. So it makes, if you make mistakes and continue struggling, let it go and acknowledge it out loud. Think about each mistake as a learning experience. And here's something really important. And just a little side note, I'm trying to fool around with Nightbot a little bit so it can drop some things to just do. And so I didn't think it was working, but it's working, but I still have to tweak it. I'm still learning about Nightbot. But anyway, let's get back to number 3. Think of each mistake as a learning experience. I have heard Tommy say, I don't know if I go back, would I undo some of the things that I've done? Would I go back and undo them? Would I not do them? Would he be where he is and all of the knowledge that we have gained from him on everything? Would he be where he was if he hadn't gone through what he did? I have all of this. I look at my years of raising a special needs child and think to myself, man, it was hard work. But I have a lot of experience when it comes to autism. I have some experience when it comes to dementia. All of the things that we have gone through in life, we have not done perfectly. Thank goodness. If we don't learn from them, we're not living. We need to go back and look at them from, yes, I have made whatever mistake it was, no matter how big or small it is. It does not mean you're a terrible person at all. However, we need to look at that and say, what can we learn from the mistake that we made? My first marriage, I did not repeat in my second marriage. That did not happen. I was not going to be put up with being abused in any way, shape, or form on my second marriage. I made sure of it. I was not going to deal with it, and it did not happen. And thankfully, I married my best friend. But I did not repeat that. I learned from it. Now, I could sit there and forgive myself for all of the stuff that happened in the first marriage, but sitting there going over and over and over it again is not going to help. What can I learn? So if you change it from, well, yeah, I did this, and yes, I messed up, but what can I learn from this? And Diary of a Ghost says, I realized yesterday I've been trying to forgive myself for things I have not done, but others placed on me. So I drew a big bubble boundary so they didn't cross it where there is issues. That is great, Diary of a Ghost. That is awesome. So we have to look at our things that we have gone through. Hi, Joe Girl. Things that we have gone through and realize that we can learn from those mistakes so that when we go forward, hopefully we don't repeat them. We can learn from them, right? Reminding ourselves that we do the best we could with the tools and knowledge we had at the time will help us forgive ourselves to move forward. I had to bring people into my life when I was raising my daughter who knew better than I did when I was raising her, because I didn't have all the tools to raise an autistic child. I didn't know what I was doing half of the time. I made my mistakes, but I had to bring people in that knew better than I did so that I could learn from them. And so give yourself permission to learn from your mistakes and be able to forgive. The fourth is give yourself permission to put the process on hold. Again, we got the trunk back. Here's where the trunk plays. And again, the trunk becomes a really valuable tool in your toolbox. Again, giving yourself permission to say, I've had enough today. In the trunk you go. I'm done today. Don't try to bite off too much of a chunk at all at once. Sometimes we need to take these things and do little bit by little bit by little bit. So if you've made a mistake but having a hard time putting it all together in your mind, put it in the trunk and and then put it aside and return to it when you're able to return to it. Return to it when you're safe in front of a friend, when you're in front of a therapist. Process it little bit by little bit. And there's absolutely don't make feel guilty about having to process things in chunks. Do it when you can. Open that trunk when you can. And number 5 is have a conversation with your inner critic. We're the hardest on ourselves, y'all. We're the hardest on ourselves than we are on anybody else. And sometimes we need to have a conversation with us. And sometimes we need to tell ourselves, you know what? We need to have it. But here's also where if you have a friend, if you have people within your 5, you need to reach out to them. Oh, I am sorry, Diary of Ghosts. Can we have some ones, please? Ones. Big hugs. We need to be able to have those 5 friends that we can reach out to when we're having a difficult time. Because again, I've talked about when I take my glasses off, everything is fuzzy. I can't see anything. When I put my glasses on, I can see clearly. And sometimes we need, hi Pamsky, we need to be able to go to a friend and have them look at the situation from the perspective of us outside the situation. So yes, we need to have a conversation with ourselves, but sometimes we need to have other people step in and help us through it. So a conversation between you and your inner critic. They can help you identify the patterns that you're sabotaging your ability to forgive yourself. That's where, hi Crochet Queen, that's where again those friends, those connections, yes, they can be happening through the YouTubes. I am so glad that I have built friends and that have somewhat, some of them really turned into family. They are going to sit there and tell me things that I don't always want to hear, but I know I need to hear. And so you need to be able to sit there with yourself. But sometimes when yourself isn't going to give you what you need to go to that friend and say, hey, I need to hear it. And if they're good enough, they're going to come to you in love. They're going to come to that inner critic and say, you know what, you're amazing. You're awesome. Right? You can also journal. We talk about journaling a lot, don't we? And again, if you're someone that is journaling, but is just, journaling, then you know what? If you can't, because of your hands, I know my hands can't do much writing. If you can't get an email address, it does not have to be fancy. It could be 1, 2, 3, make it up, whatever it needs to be. Only you're going to see it. Okay. You can type it. You could go on your phone and go into your phone and video or talk it into the phone, right? Just blabber it all out. If you can't journal handwritten, go ahead and set up an email address and do it by typing or do it by phone or text, voice to text. It needs to get in here and out. Doesn't matter how it needs to happen. So journaling is very, 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 very helpful. It can also help with self-confidence if you're feeling down about a mistake you made. You know what? Sometimes we forget that we need to maybe do what we did when if our moms may have done. I know my mom did it. When the new spelling list came out, right? She would print out all the words and I'd come in the bathroom and they'd all be stuck on the mirror. Well, why can't we print out a word about ourselves? You're beautiful. I have a wonderful saying about the disco ball. Your disco ball. Put up a saying, put up something positive about yourself that you can glean from, that you can put up in the bathroom every time you're using the restroom, you're washing your hands or you're brushing your teeth, right? Look, this is one of my favorite new sayings. A disco ball is hundreds of pieces of broken glass put together to make a magical ball of light. You're a disco ball. Put something like that up. Say you're beautiful. Do something that you can see every time you walk in and out of that. And you know what? Do yourself a favor. Don't just go by it, right? Don't go by it and sit there and go, yeah, no. No, say it out loud. Read it as you're going by, as you're done brushing your teeth. Just sit there and say, I'm beautiful. I'm lovely. I'm doing a good job with this. Do something positive on that mirror. I usually go by what I tell my friend in that situation. That is great. Much. I can't say your name for anything, but that is awesome advice. What would your friend say to you? Sometimes we need to be our best inner friend because we know ourselves best, but sometimes we can also be our worst enemy. I send notes to myself in Messenger so I have a running tab of what I'm thinking and why. Then I can pull it out at any time. The old thoughts are needed and forgotten easily. That is an awesome idea, Diary of a Ghost. That is awesome. Something I wouldn't have thought of. I journal while listening to this, Mary. Sober, guilt, grief, my kids is the hardest single thing I have trouble regarding forgiving myself. Journaling helps reframing it. Absolutely. I've told my daughter, she's now married and grown, and I say to her, you know what? I did the best I could under some very trying times, exhausting times, raising you. It was not easy. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just flying by the seat of the pants, and I just was going through a lot of stuff. And I did the best I could. I made my mistakes, absolutely. But I've had to go to her and ask for forgiveness. And then when I go to her, I have to come to me and say, Mary, you're allowed to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself. And with that being said, before we go on to the 6 or 7, or the rest of them, let's go hear from Captain Calhoun and hear what his take this morning was on his view of forgiving yourself.
Do I have any words of wisdom to give the crew for forgiving themselves? And to that, I say forgiving yourself is one of the most important things you can do. You have to. It's your obligation. It's your duty to forgive yourself. Otherwise, how are you going to move forward? It's like one of the most important things you're going to do in your life is forgive yourself, because you're not a bad person. You just did some bad things. You know what I mean? You're not a bad person. You just made some mistakes. It's all good. It's okay. We all do that. We all fall down. And, maybe whatever you're needing to forgive yourself for is a little extra. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just it's a little special. It's a little different. That's okay. I still think that you need to forgive yourself. I think it's a need. I think it's necessary. I don't think it's like this could be good. I think it's this could liberate, this could open the rest of your life up. Yeah. It's not this could be good. It's this is going to change everything. This is going to open up my world. This is going to allow me to move forward. You know what I mean? It's a need for sure. And that's how I feel. That's my 2 cents.
Wasn't that awesome? I love that. And then again, here's why the ripples are so important. It's giving you another perspective of he phrased it very different than Admiral Tommy did. It's giving you another perspective of how to what his opinion of forgiving yourself. He says it's a necessity, and I really do believe it is. So 6 is notice when you're being self-critical. We don't often realize how well those tapes come into play, and we tend to beat ourselves up when we're critical about something, right? Hi, Sandy. You know, and so how critical we can be when things happen like that, and we love them too, Admiral, believe me. When your actions impact your kids, it's really hard because as parents, we never ever want to hurt our kids. Yes, collateral. Yes, I agree 100%. We don't want to hurt them. However, when you're realizing that you can be critical, you can be so critical. If I go back and look, oh, I did this and I did this. Yes, I can be so self-critical of myself. And those old tapes, we've talked about them before, right? Them old tapes come playing in our heads. And I think that this snow fishing island can just be as good as, you know what? Dump stuff in there that I'm done with it. I am done with it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Forgiveness, whatever old tapes you have, throw them in there. Put them in the deepest, darkest place in the sea so they're never brought up again. We can be so self-critical of ourselves, and it's not really the truth. Our mind can play tricks on us. Our mind can lie to us, and we don't need to be so self-critical. We're our own worst critics, aren't we? We're our own worst critics. You might be surprised to what your inner critical actually says to you. So you need to listen to yourself. You've got to listen to what you know is true. That's kind of where you do a thought record, where you sit there and you go and you do a thought record and you go, wait a minute, can I back what I'm saying up? Like, let's look at the thought record for a minute. I'm a horrible person. Well, can you back it up? I couldn't back it up. My brain may be telling me I'm a horrible person. But if I start writing down all the facts, I'm not a horrible person. I guarantee you, people in the chat would be saying that's far from it. But you know what? We have to go back and look at the facts. Nobody, and say, is this true? Is this true? Is this going to hold up? If it's not, then why isn't it true? And you can go back and do that. And Diary of Ghost says, I have a learning disability. So do I. That's why reading that, I had to think about that word for a minute. I have a learning disability too. And if it's your journal, it doesn't matter if it's misspelled words. It's just part of it. Quit the negative messages of your inner critic. Sometimes it's difficult to recognize the thoughts that are getting in the way of forgiveness. If you're struggling to sort out your inner critic, let's try to say that 3,000 times right. Here are some things that you can do. One side of the piece of paper, write down what the inner critic is saying, okay? Which tends to be critical and, irritating. So initially, write down the inner critic says. On the other side of the paper, write the self-compassionate and rational response to each thing you wrote on each side of the paper, which I think is great. I'm a horrible person. No, I'm not. I have a very kind heart. Well, people don't want to be my friends. Yes, they do. They think I'm an awesome person. So that is a great idea, to write actually what you think your inner critic is saying and what is the truth. If you can't do it, if you can't think of something else, then you know what you need to do? You need to get a friend. You need to get one of those people in the 5 that's going to sit with you and say, I need somebody to balance this off, to show me what I can't see, because right now everything is blurry. Somehow, 7. Oh, that was 7. Okay. 8, get clear about what you want. That's a good one too. How often are we not clear about what we want? Sometimes we'll go to a fast food restaurant, we know the menu, and we'll be skimming everything to say, well, we know what McDonald's has, or we know what Burger King has, or we know well, you know what? You need to be very clear on what you want. Is the mistakes you made hurt another person? You need to determine the best course of action. And there's where, if you're not sure the best course of action, talk it over with a friend that you can confide in. Talk to a counselor. I have a situation right now with a family member who has pretty much just walked away since December. Very hurtful way. It was very difficult to our family. And you know what? I have chosen that I need to write a letter. And this letter, in this aspect, needs to get mailed, because it is probably my only way of being able to say goodbye, if that is the choice that this person is taking. But what I have done with that is I'm planning on, I have a dear friend of mine who is going to make sure that I've asked them to, please, would you do me a favor and read this letter? You know why? Because I'm not sure when it gets to its destination, whether it's, hey, Baseball Jones, I'm not sure if when it gets to its destination, if it's actually going to get read. And I need it to be read by somebody. I don't need to know if she read it. If the person read it, that's fine. That's wonderful. If they didn't read it, that's okay. But at least I feel like it has been read by one person. So take the correct course of action depending on the situation, and consult a friend if you need it. Do you want to talk to the person or apologize? In this case, I've apologized. I really didn't say anything too terrible, but apparently I did enough to be totally disconnected in every way, shape, or form. And no, they're not in Scientology, but I've apologized. I'm not writing this letter to say I apologize. I've already done that. This is my letter to say, you know what? I've said my sorries. But you hurt me. And if you have chosen to just continue to be out of my life, that's fine. But this is my way of saying goodbye. So decide that. And decide the best way to reconcile. If there's a way. The only way for me to reconcile, to have any chance of it, is to write the letter. And whether it happens or not, literally is up to them. So, you have to decide what is the clear action. And sometimes we need those connections to come in and help us through. That's where, again, writing exactly, asking for help is not a bad thing. We talked about that with my mom. We talked about asking for help is a good thing. That's really, really a good thing. Hi, Fairbrook Studio. I have a horrible memory, and I have things I think of, and then I forget to write down, and it's time to journal. I can't remember something for 20 years ago, I can remember something from 20 years ago, but not from yesterday. And I think that's where our phones come in very handy, because we think of ideas for content, and I think, okay, we should write this down, and I'll go, oh, what was that thing I forgot? So that's where our phones come in. Very, very handy. And Diary Ghost says, I'm not able to read my own misspelled words, so I'm handwriting for me is useless. So I do it through Messenger. I think the Messenger idea is a great idea. I would have never thought of that. I think that is a great idea. Do whatever you need to do from here to there to get it out. Here's one. Do we often take our own advice? No, we don't. We often don't. But sometimes I think we do. I think we need to look at the situation and say, do we need to take our own advice? Oftentimes, it's easier to tell someone else what to do than to take our own advice. Dealing with fibromyalgia, high emotional new soul, dealing with fibromyalgia, I can tell you there are times when I don't want to take my own advice. Those that know, I deal with pain 24/7. And there's times like, I don't know where this migraine decided to come, but it decided to come out of nowhere. And now I'm going to have to go lay down for an hour. I really don't want to lay down for an hour, but I need to lay down for an hour. So I have to listen to my body. I have learned that in order to deal with fibromyalgia in an efficient way, I have to listen to my body, whether I like it or not. And there is a lot of times I do not like it, but I have to listen to my body. So taking your own advice does come in handy. Go to a therapist. My husband and I go to a therapist, not for marriage counseling, but we go because we're there to support each other. Recently, she wanted to separate. Recently, she wanted to separate and us and put us in separate and do our session separately. But you know what? He didn't want that. My husband couldn't deal with that. He needed my support to be in the room. And we came back, we had a conversation with our therapist again and said, you know what? we need to do this together. So we go not for marriage counseling, but just because, thank you, Tommy, just because, we needed the support. We needed to be there for each other. But therapy can be a tremendous help. And you all rock too. You all are absolutely rock stars, as far as I'm concerned. I have fibromyalgia as well as Crohn's and lupus, so I understand a little about what you are going through. And it can be very frustrating, absolutely. So go seek a therapist and listen, if you need to go with somebody, you tell that therapist, I'm having my friend because I need the support. I consume the goods. Do not be afraid to have somebody go in there with you if you feel they need the support. My husband tends to be ADHD. And so if I'm not in the room, I can see him, he starts here and then he goes over here and then he comes back. He's all over the map. And there's some times where I have known this man now for 27 years. We've been married for 17, but we were friends for a very long time before we got married. And there's some times where I know he wants to say something, but I'm the one that can come in and say something and just rip that Band-Aid off. And he knows it. And so having me in the room while he's going through his therapy is really beneficial to him. But I don't know if the therapist saw it until we went back again a week ago, because Memorial Day was Monday. So do not be afraid if you feel that you need to go to a therapist and you have a therapist or a friend, a spouse, someone that can go in there with you. If you need for them to be in the room with you as you're processing stuff, as long as you feel that they're going to be trustworthy and they can handle it, ask them. Don't be ashamed to ask them. If you need them there, take them. I usually get great advice. Somehow this optical twin of mine stuck at taking it at times. Yes, I get that totally, 100%. If you have a difficult time working through this in your head, help to role play with a friend. I think that's great. Help to role play with a friend. Ask them to take on your mistakes and then tell you what happened and how they are struggling to forgive themselves. You get to be the advice giver and practice telling your friend how to move on. Oh boy, that's a good one. Just flip it. Have your friend be the one that is going to sit there and say, okay, if I was you tell that friend whatever you need to forgive, and that friend gives it back to you as it was you, and then you give that friend that advice. That's a great way to think about, a tool to be able to forgive yourself. It's human nature to spend the time and energy replaying our mistakes. Put them in the ocean. Put them in the non-fishing pond. They're gone. They're done. Sometimes processing is important, and going over what happened again won't allow you to take proper steps in forgiving yourself. This is where they call ruminating. We all know what ruminating happens when they plow the fields, right? And they do all the farm stuff. And I'm no farmer, so I don't know But anyway, we all know when the ruminating happens, right? And they're tulling up all the things to get all the nutrients up and get a new crop in. We sit there and we ruminate all this stuff in our head over and over and over and over again. It takes a lot of energy to keep doing that. And that's again where we're going to use the trunk. We're going to use that trunk image to go ahead and say, okay, I've ruminated enough today. It's not, I'm just going over the same thing over and over and over again. Back in the trunk you go. I'm done. So again, like Tommy says, when we're in a position, change your scenery. When you catch yourself doing it, go replaying those tapes. Take 3 deep breaths. Go for a walk. Change your scenery. Go someplace around other than doing it, staying in the same place. If the same place is giving you stuff, go ahead and give yourself other things and do so forth. So get yourself out of there into something else, different scene. I was having a real difficult day one day, and we don't live far from the Amish country. I got in the car and went to the Amish country, looked around the stores, took my walker with the little seat, and went to get a bite to eat. We left the situation and got out. I knew I wasn't going to do anything sitting here. And it did. It helped. It made a difference. Shows kindness and compassion. Boy, oh boy. We need to show kindness and compassion, don't we? We need to do it to ourselves. And as if we do it to others, we need to do it to ourselves. Like Tommy was saying at the very beginning, when he was using, he can't look at himself when he was using because he wasn't in his right mind. So how can he judge himself? We have to look and go, goodness, there was things that I said when my dad was grieving, or when I lost my dad, that I said that I was just grieving. I was in grief. And I said some things. When I was raising my daughter and I was exhausted and tired, and I said or I did some things. Or when I was angry at the world in my 20s, and I have to look at myself and say, I did the best I could. I have to forgive myself for it. And Janet says there is dealing with actions that need forgiveness. There is dealing with major traumas. The process is different for me, anyone, anywhere, different approach. I feel that my mom's diary goes as a single mom. She died and I was 16. When I needed family, no one was around. I was homeless for 5 years. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. So I have, Janet says, I have to separate the 2 types of forgiveness stages in my mind. That's a good idea too. Hello, Jermide. I think I said it right. I like this one, Kristen. I would like, amen, would be like blaming a car for having busted brakes. It's not the car's fault. It needs new brakes. I love that. That is such a good way to do it. And I personally believe the biggest traumas are the things that require the largest forgiveness, not for the idiots who did us wrong, but for those who have survived what they did to us. I absolutely agree, Tommy. Absolutely. And then the 10 is what I think the total of mental health month is let's not suffer in silence, y'all. We here can be awesome, tremendous peer support individuals, and we are. There are friends that are in the chat that have turned into sisters and brothers, and I am so grateful. Beyond belief. I no longer have the tape running in my head that says nobody wants to be my friend because I got friends that say, we love you too much. But this is Mental Health Monday. Friends and peer supports and all that can do tremendously amazing things. The connection is so, so important. However, let's not forget that when we need to seek professional help, when we need to go talk with a therapist, this is not a dig on who you are. It's not a sign of your weakness. It is the opposite. It shows your strength. It shows your strength. It's not weakness. Going to get help, going to get, going to be able to get assistance and help is strength, people. It is strength. Let's not forget that. Part of the why I love the eagle enough to have it in ink, because of the perspective the eagle is one of us, to get out of the fog and be able to use that laser sharp focus. I love eagles too. I absolutely love eagles. And I'm proud to be your friend too, Tommy. I look at him to some degree as a brother. I don't have any sisters or brothers, so I'll take all the brothers and sisters I can get, believe me. So if you're struggling to forgive yourself, it may be benefit to talk to a professional. They can help to break unhealthy patterns in your life, and learn new and healthy ways to cope with mistakes. It comes down to saying we can forgive. We have to be able to forgive the mistakes we've made. And we cannot sit here beating ourselves up over and over and over and over again. We can't. The takeaway is forgiveness is important to heal processes, since it allows you to let go of anger, guilt, shame, sadness, and other feelings that may be experienced on moving on. Once you have identified what you're feeling, give a voice to it. Accept that mistakes are inevitable. You begin to feel the freedom of forgiveness. I think that's so powerful. Mistakes are inevitable. I probably didn't say that as clear as I could have. But again, they're going to happen. God willing, the sun is going to set tonight and it's going to rise tomorrow. If we realize that mistakes are going to happen and we're going to have to go, oops, I made a mistake. But again, what can we glean from that? What can we learn from that? And I kind of find it ironic to some degree. When we first started this, we talked about what forgiveness, being able to forgive yourself, requires empathy, compassion, kindness, and understanding. That was the first part of it, right? But forgiveness and allowing you lets go of what? The total opposite of what it does to be able to forgive yourself. It's letting go of all those. But to be able to forgive yourself, we've got to start with that for ourselves. And I think that was really neat. It's okay to forgive yourself for not having been able to do better at the time, while holding yourself accountable for the future. That is true. I've had to do that raising my daughter. That was absolutely for sure. Not from them because they don't deserve forgiveness, but for you because you have not have the rent space in your head. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had to forgive. And we talked about the last one. If you haven't seen the power of forgiveness that I did, I really suggest to go back and watch that, because I use daily affirmations to forgive myself. Out loud that I forgive myself. Sorry, I needed a drink of water for a minute. People judge others as a deflection, as they don't have to look at themselves. Absolutely. I think my takeaway, and like I said, on the pollen, as I said before, I would strongly suggest people that haven't seen the forgiveness that I did, the power of forgiveness, I would suggest people go back and watch that, because I went through several. I went through my first marriage, how I had to forgive my ex-husband, how I had to forgive my dad, how I had to forgive my my uncle, how I had to forgive several people within my life that I sat there and I've had to forgive. But I think, again, the hardest is forgiving yourself. And these are tools within the toolbox that you can use to go back. And this is a lot. This is 12. Don't try to chew them all up at once. You're going to make yourself sick. Just think about it. If we sat down and ate a whole cake, boy, are we going to make ourselves sick. But sometimes if we have that cake a piece at a time, and we use that trunk again and say, okay, I'm done. I've ate my piece of cake. It's going in the trunk till I can pull it back out again. And then when you finally have said to yourself, I forgive myself. I hot damn. When you forgive yourself, I want you to do the next thing. I want you to take it to that island and I want you to throw it in the deepest part and don't bring it back up again. Give yourself permission. It's probably my takeaway. We had Tommy's, we had Spanx, and now we have mine. My biggest takeaway is this. I think this is the final part of it. Get yourself to a place where you can say, I'm going to put it there and I am going to say, I'm done. I'm going to go to this island. I'm going to give myself a present. I'm going to love myself enough to put it in that ocean and say, I'm done. And I'm not going to bring it back up again. And that's where your friends can help too. That you can ask them, hey, don't allow me. I don't need to bring it back up again. I don't want to help me not to please bring it up again. There was this wonderful quote that I had that I loved, and I did yesterday. When you have a friend who is going through a personal storm, instead of being a weatherman and spreading the news, try being an umbrella and covering them with love. Don't we do that? But let's remember, we can use that umbrella of love on ourselves too. We do not have to beat ourselves up. We do not have to beat ourselves up. We need to come in. We need to come in when people are going through a difficult time. And the thing is to not try to fix it. We're not trying to fix it. It's not about fixing it, right? It is about coming in and being that umbrella of love to somebody. And we need to do that. We need to do that to ourselves. We need to do that to everybody else, don't we? We need to do love. So, my takeaway is this. Again, my final thing is you've got to forgive yourself. You've got to realize you're going to make mistakes. I've said to my daughter, honey, I love you to pieces. But I haven't, I'm not gone and left this world yet. But I guarantee you before I leave this world, I'm going to say something and I'm going to do something that I'm going to hurt you, that I don't intend to hurt you. And let me just go ahead and apologize now. It doesn't mean I don't need to apologize then. I need to realize there's going to be circumstances and situations that are going to come up that I'm going to say something, not intentionally. Okay? But just because I'm going through something. I love my mother dearly. And I've already said to my daughter, you're going to have to give me lots of grace when she passes from this world. Because that one's going to be a real tough one. Grace. Giving each other grace. And willing to give each other grace. That is so amazing to be able to say. We've got to give people grace, but let's not forget about ourselves. We've got to give ourselves grace too. Go to that island. Say, I'm done with this. I've put things away. I bring them up here as examples to you, but I've forgiven myself for the way I treated my parents in my 20s. It was horrible. I was mad. I've forgiven myself for my divorce. I did it because it was for safe reasons. I was in an abusive relationship. I've forgiven myself for things I should have done and I didn't do when I was raising my special needs daughter. They're in that big ocean. I'm not hiring a submarine to go after them. And if I start doing that, I'm going to run to connection in order to be able to make sure that I don't go there. Because this person, when I am going through something, depending on my mood, I will run to the nearest grocery store and pick up a couple gallons of mint chocolate chip ice cream and have a fun time. At least I think I will. I don't. I'm miserable and I don't like it. I don't like the way I feel. I know that I don't need it. Now, if I'm going to go and maybe every 6 months, I'll get a gallon of mint chocolate chip ice cream. I'll enjoy it and that's it. But if I'm going through an emotional time, the worst thing that I can do is go to the grocery store. The best thing I can do is run right to connection. And these are why these ripples are so, so important. Because they are there to be able to have a place to run to. I'm sure Tommy's done about forgiving yourselves. I know Spanx will do it. And I know we're going to talk about it some more. But everybody comes from a different perspective. That's why I thought it was so important that I did those video clips, that did the video clips from Tommy and then Captain Calhoun and then, me, because I thought every one of them had a different perspective. And I'm telling you, I am so grateful for our channel. I'm so grateful to the Lifeboat. I would not be where I am without getting on the Lifeboat. And I did not think that I needed it, but I was so wrong. I did. And I have grown and I have made friendships and I've gained sisters and brothers I didn't realize I had. And I will never go back, nor will I be allowed to go back to marry, without much connection in my life. It's never going to happen. And I just keep remembering that time when I came on, I literally was crying in my coffee. And I said to Tommy, I'm sorry to dump. And I thought he won't notice me. He did. And he lovingly said to me, this is the place that you need to dump. We are here for you. And everybody came beside me and helped me through a problem. And that was the day of the eclipse. And that eclipse, I was outside. I was on my phone. I was talking. I was just going through a hard time. And I literally got permission to dump. If we're not going to dump any place here but my channel and the Lifeboat and Need a Meaning and conversations with Christy and all these other ripples coming out all over the place, then where can we? We have to be able to give permission to be able to dump. And like I said, he gave me a loving kick butt that day. And sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need that. We have to. Love the ripple. We will never let you leave. I'm not leaving. No, sorry, you're stuck. Y'all are stuck with me. I ain't going anywhere. I'm so grateful beyond belief. I can't tell y'all tremendously. So can I encourage you? Let's leave with this because I know Need the Meaning is going to come on and shortly. Sandy, if you're still here, Sandy, if you're here, or if one of the mods are here, if you could go ahead and drop the need the meeting, because they're going to come up on at 3:40 and 4:40 Eastern time and 1:40 Pacific time. But can I leave you with this, please? I'm giving you permission. I'm giving you permission to work through your stuff. I'm giving you permission to throw it in that trunk, right? Throw it in the trunk when you can't deal with it. And then I'm giving you permission when you finally get to the point where you have dealt with it, take it to that island and give yourself the gift of forgiving yourself. You are worthy enough to forgive yourself. There is nothing you have done not worthy of being able to say, I forgive myself, and off you go. Love you too, Kristen. Off you go. Okay? And that's what we need to remember. If you all want to take a snapshot with your phones, take it. Put it in your bathrooms. Put it in your bathrooms. Give yourself permission. You can even take this and put it in your bathroom and take a little sticky note and put whatever it is and say, this one is going in there. One forgiveness at a time. But I give you permission to do that for your own mental well-being. If we can forgive others, we dang on tootin' can forgive ourselves. And I give you permission to do it. And you will be amazed how, that makes me feel good. Let's give compassion to ourselves. Let's love ourselves enough. We all love you here on my channel and the Lifeboat. We all love you. You're amazing. Now, just a little side note, real quick. I installed Nightbot because I was trying, and I forgot I had it on. I was trying to do something because I do something too, real quick. It's called Lighthouse Mondays. And I started that on Monday, and it's not a thing that I do live, but it is a live form content show. So it's live form, and there's a lot of video clips in there of me doing, plus different lighthouses, and there's even a mocha break in there, which is our dog, and so forth and so on. But I do it for about an hour and a half, and it is just a way of people being able to go and just start connecting with each other, and also find other channels that I would highly recommend you going to check out. Most of them have live content kind of forms. A gentleman who did a Saturday Night Hangout on our channel, he did Fonzo. He was amazing Saturday Night Hangout and did a concert for us. He has lovingly sent me music that I can use now for future Monday Night Hangouts, and I love it. I will be certainly playing his music for sure come the next Monday, for Monday Lighthouse. So it's Lighthouse Mondays, and that is just me. It is live. I don't come live. I start chit-chatting in the chat, and I welcome other people to come in and just open up the lighthouse so we can all be beacons of light as a way of being able to get you all connecting, being able to find other channels that you may also want to connect with. And so several people loved it, and that's what we're going to do. So if you're interested, that is usually Monday. I think that is. That is a great way of being able to connect with other people and other channels that you can find that also have live content. So that's going to be on Monday. I'm going to try to do it about 9, and there may be times where I change the time a little bit because of different time zones. But that is something else. And I started doing Devotion Tuesday, and we're doing Topic Thursday. So that'll be a brief little thing of what we kind of talked about today, which is forgiving yourself. So, boy, oh boy, this was a packed hour. And we got to hear from Tommy. We got to hear from Spanx. We got to hear from me. And boy, we had a great time. And excuse me. And I just want to thank so much. It was an honor to have the Admiral on this live. Absolutely an absolute honor. Thank you for stopping by. And so I hope everybody has a great day. Forgive yourself today and do yourself a favor. Stay connected. It truly can make a huge, huge difference in your life. It has mine. And I'm very grateful not only for this channel, but for the Lifeboat. Love y'all. Have a blessed day. Forgive yourself and stay connected, y'all. Bye.